Welcome back. December 7th, the day that will live in infamy. Now this video is not going to deal directly with the events of December 7th, 1941, nor is it going to deal directly with trucking, but it is going to deal with a subject that the people from that time dealt with, and it's going to deal with some of the things that some people in trucking deal with, and that is PTS or PTSD. Now, when you hear that term, PTS or PTSD, the first thing that most people think about is our troops, our veterans, active duty military, those that have served our country. Now, yes, they have experienced a lot of stuff that would cause PTS or PTSD. To start with, I want to talk about the difference between PTS and PTSD. Now, PTSD is what we're familiar with, and it's what used to be called shell shock. PTSD is post-traumatic stress disorder, where PTS is post-traumatic stress. I don't like the D on there, I don't like the disorder on there, because so many people think about a disorder, a problem, a failing, a weakness, and they won't go out and find the help, the counsel, or whatever it is they need to work through the issues. They just won't do it. They're like, there's nothing wrong with me. I'm fine. I have no problems. So let's start referring to it as PTS instead of PTSD. So, but it's our first responders is what we should also think about as far as veterans. So we hear until 22, which is about veteran suicide. They say 22 veterans a day commit suicide on average. But what about our first responders? Our police, our fire, EMS. Before I go any further, I want to talk about the distinction on those three. So, when you pick up the phone, you call 911, you're like, I cut my leg off with a chainsaw, or my ear, Mike bit my ear off, whatever. Sorry, bad one, but anyway, but you expect you're having chest pains, you can't breathe, or the neighbor kid overdosed out in the middle of the street, or you name it, you call 911. You expect the ambulance is going to show up. Until that moment, you never think about them. The average person does not think about EMTs and the paramedics, the ambulance service, the rescue squad as being the first responder. They don't have a union backing them, putting their name out there, like the police union or the fire union. You typically just don't see them out riding around. They're not in your face. They're pretty much in seclusion until they're needed. Then they show up, scoop you up, get you stable, and off they go. Right? So you don't think about them until you need them. But when you do need them, you expect them to show up and treat you like a first-rate customer. Yeah, you don't want a bad mood. It doesn't matter to you that you called them at 3 o'clock in the morning because you can't breathe, but they've been on shift since 7 o'clock the previous morning working a 24-hour shift, and you are their 13th call and they've had no sleep. They're tired, they're hungry, right? They just want to sleep, and now you've got chest pains, so they might be a little short, not mean with you, but it might be a little short. But you guys don't care about that. You just want treated the way you feel you deserve to be treated. Now, granted, EMS often shoots yourself in the foot with getting their face out there and being seen because of the appearance standards that they allow in their uniforms. A lot of times and I see it too, I'll be out and about or a different place around the country, and I'll see them standing around a 24-hour store, and I just shake my head like, how can you be in uniform and look like that? This right here has ruined me on that front. That's certain things I just can't stand it. Anyway, so our first responders deal with post-traumatic stress. And according to the Mayo Clinic, PTSD is a mental condition triggered by a terrifying event, either experiencing it or witnessing it. Okay, right there. Those that come on the Band-Aid buggy in EMS, those that show up with the fire department or law enforcement, when they see you, it's not your best moment. They see the worst society has to offer. Think about it. Do they ever just come by your house and say, hey, Mr. Smith, how you doing? No, they don't come by your house till Mr. Smith calls, says he can't breathe. They don't show up until the guy down the street got shot in a drug deal. right? So they always see the worst, and they're involved in that tragedy. Now, fire and EMS come and go, or fire and police, they come and they go. EMS, they come, they treat, they scoop them up, put them in the truck, and they provide care all the way to the hospital or the morgue. Sometimes we'll be called at the scene, but they're with the person from when they arrive until they deposit them in somebody else's care. And they've got to live with the success or the failure of whether or not their treatment worked or did not work. Sometimes it's beyond hope when they get there, but they still try anyhow. Oftentimes they will try when they know it's a lost cause, but because there's families standing around, they're going to do everything they can just to give you a peace of mind. Your 91-year-old grandma goes into cardiac arrest, and she has a long history of health issues, but you're standing there watching them and you expect something to happen. They know grandma's not coming back. Grandma's blue. She's gone. But they will work their tails off for 40 minutes in the house with you standing there until they call it that she's gone. But they do it for you guys. So, but some of the things, you know, the Mayo Clinic goes on to say that also, under risk factors, they list having a job that increases your risk of being exposed to traumatic events such as military personnel and first responders. So, traumatic events, well, I'm going to condense this. I'm not going to list all of them because there's a lot of things that can be combined into one. So, some of the things are combat, abuse, assault, threats to life and limb, accidents, fire, natural disasters, torture, life-threatening illness, terrorism, and stress. See, you can experience nothing bad but be under undue, unrelenting stress. Day in and day out, time after time after time. So that's why so many more people have PTSD than are diagnosed with it. And they didn't see necessarily being involved in something traumatic. They may have not even been in the military. But because they're under a certain amount of stress, it rewired their brain. The brain's a funny thing. We don't fully understand it. It's very complicated. So they'll say that some people react differently than others. Some people will seem fine. Other people seem like a basket case. We just don't know. Very complicated up here. Very complicated. But anyway, so I'm going to do a written blog on this, guys. Excuse me. I've got so much written down. But here's the thing. I'm going to give you some more statistics. The Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration says about 1 in 3 first responders develop PTSD, whereas about 1 in 5 of the general public. That's a staggering difference in numbers. According to the Sage Journal study, PTSD is present in 15% of EMS personnel. That's a lot, guys. 13% of rescue teams. Now, rescue teams comprise people from fire and EMS, and sometimes from law enforcement. PTSD is present in 7% of firefighters and 5% of police officers. An estimated 400,000 first responders in America have PTSD. And the number's probably higher because so many will not answer the surveys. 37% of EMS personnel and firefighters have contemplated suicide. 37% have contemplated suicide. And 6.6% of those have actually tried it. Now, guys, look. I've grown up around it. I chose not to do it, to go down that road into that career path. I have family that have, and I have friends that have. I know 2 people, just in a small area I live in, that have contemplated suicide. And one of those, it was such a strong desire that he requested I come to his home and sit with him, and he gave me all his weapons to take with me until he felt he was okay to have him back in the house. Sometimes, folks, all it takes is for you to have a listening ear, to be there and be willing to sit with them, pray with them, an encouraging word. Just be a friend and don't judge them. Just be a friend. So, in some areas, EMS is not even considered an essential government function. In some areas, it's a strictly volunteer service. And there's nowhere for these guys to go to get help working through the issues. They're on their own. Now the church, I'm going to talk to the church for a minute. Just as you do on Veterans Day, You have a 2-hour service on Veterans Day. You recognize all the veterans. Give them a hand clap. Pat yourself in the back. Rest of the year, you're not there for them. Veterans, most of us don't want the recognition. We don't ask for recognition. Matter of fact, it makes a lot of us uncomfortable. But we do it. Sometimes they're prodding from our wives. First responders. You call them heroes. A lot of them don't consider themselves to be a hero. I'm telling you what they've told me. They don't consider themselves to be a hero because they see all the times their efforts have failed, or they perceive it failed. It may have not been a total failure, but they perceive that for whatever reason it failed. Now you're going to sit there and tell them you shouldn't think that way. You tried your best, you tried your hardest. Now think back to your life. Every time you tried hard at something and it failed, and you still replay it in your mind. That's what they've got on call after call after call, right? So guys, that's the fact of it. They don't see themselves as a hero, but you call them a hero to make them uncomfortable. The other thing they feel is they feel very judged at church because their shifts are not Monday through Friday, 8 to 5. That's just not it. A lot of times they'll work 12s or they'll work 24s, and it's a rotating. Like my son's schedule. He works 12-hour shifts, 12 on or 24 on, 24 off. He'll do three of those, and he'll be off 4 days. So it rotates. He'll have a whole month where he works every Sunday. He can't go to church. So what happens when he does go to church and he expresses he's got some issues or he's kind of reserved from people? Well, if you just come to church more, if you're just more faithful, they feel very judged by people's reactions and actions towards them when they do come to church. It makes them not want to come back to church. And then you guys want to talk into their life and try to give them advice and counsel, and you don't have that kind of relationship with them. Then on one day a year, at 2-hour service, you want to recognize first responders on First Responder Weeks. Pat yourself on the back and feel good because you recognize the first responders. Yes, you appreciate them, but you have not shown anything the other 365 and 3/4 days of the year that you do. You're not bringing them meals. You're not offering to take care of their laundry, if they run out of clothes, especially during this pandemic, guys. Sometimes they'll go through 4 uniforms in a shift. You're not building a relationship with them personally to where they have the confidence to talk to you, to open up to you. They don't even see you. Don't see hide nor hair of you anywhere. Guys, I'm going to tell you this too, and this is from their mouth to your ears. Stop asking them about your worst call or the worst thing you've seen, and stop offering up oh man, you've seen some horrible stuff. You must have PTSD. I'm going to tell you a story. Well, one, they don't want to come to church, and they don't want to hear somebody's clueless ask them about their worst call because they don't want to come to church, a place that should be a place where they can heal and get some spiritual rest and build relationships and be encouraged to go back and face and see the darkness and the worst society has to offer. They should not have to relive a terrible call just to assuage your curiosity. Don't ask it. A young guy in EMS had a lady walk up to him in church. A young lady said, "Oh man, you're in EMS, that's so cool. What's the worst thing you've seen?" He was so tired of it, he told her the worst call he'd seen to date. He told her that there was a car that had been involved in a drive-by shooting. He and his partner's victim, bullet entered this side, came out here. They took a Solo cup out of the cup holder and they collected the leaking brain matter out of his brain. He was dead. And then the bystander saw a car coming by that looked like the car that did the shooting and freaked out, started saying, "Oh, that's the car that did it." That young guy, every time he drives down that street, he sees that. Everybody in fire, EMS, police have bad calls, and every time they go by that spot, they relive it. Stop asking them about it, guys. Don't ask them. You've got to build a relationship with them, and they will open up to you on their own in time. It'll take a long time. It's going to take time. It's going to take patience and persistence on your part and dedication. There's so much more I can say about this. I'm going to try to get it all to my written blog on a Thinking Man blog at WordPress. I'll get it up tonight or tomorrow. In the meantime, guys, the best thing you can do for our first responders is pray for them a lot. Because the world is crazy. Crazy things are happening. You don't see it. You live in this nice little bubble and you don't see it for the most part. Most of you don't see it. You don't see what they see every day. Folks, with that, just pray for them and stop asking them stupid questions.